Okay, so today I'm gonna talk about switch skating, what some benefits are, how you can get introduced to switch skating, and an overall, discussion on the switch stance. So essentially, if you're a regular skater like myself, your left foot is going forward. That's your dominant stance. If you're a goofy skater, your right foot is on on the middle of the board, and then switch is basically just mirroring your stance, right? So if you're a goofy skater, you become a regular skater. If you're a regular skater, you become a goofy skater. But you just refer to it as switch. Now, essentially, if you want to introduce yourself into switch skating, it's gonna feel uncomfortable because it's like riding with the hand you're not comfortable with. So as a right-handed person who does everything in that hand, it's gonna feel awkward going into your left, trying to eat that way, ride that way, throw that way, whatever it may be. It's a similar situation when you start skating switch. And so in order for you to feel a bit more comfortable with that stance, you could start by just making sure you get on with that non-dominant foot. So for me, because I'm a regular skater and my dominant foot is my left, I would just start by getting comfortable, getting on my board with the right first, right? Making sure that as I get on, my center weight is straight over this right foot. Now, once that becomes easy, and I can even do little drills like this, right? Making sure that I'm holding myself well over that right leg, right foot complex. I can even play around with making sure I'm hopping onto it, right? Maybe it rolls, maybe it doesn't. It could be done on grass, it can be done on cement. Generally, you'll be safe as long as you hop on with the foot in the center. Now, if I try to get onto my switch stance and then I go on this heavy on this back foot, which can be natural inclination because I'm so used to being on my left as a regular skater, then that's when I can go into trouble because I might be slipping back, or I might just kind of always trying to catch my balance, hopping, go up, hopping from one side to the next. And so what I don't want to do is this, where I'm up here and then down here pushing, up here, down here pushing. I want to make sure that I'm always centered over this dominant foot, right? So if I want to pedal, I just get lowered through a little half squat and push from there, right? And that way I'm still centered over this foot. Once that becomes a bit comfortable, when you can just like push yourself, get onto your board with one push and make sure you're centered over that switch lead foot, you can start to do little pushes, right? And you don't need to go so fast. The inclination is to go, hop off, push, and then get back on. You want to make sure that you're giving yourself a breather between every push. That way you understand, or you can even hold yourself accountable to the simple fact or the reality if you aren't or are in control of those pushes. Because if you slow down the pushes and you feel very shaky, that's going to show you that you need so much more to work on. But if you're just kind of trying to rush through it and not able to really take mental note of your discomfort and the imbalance and the lack of control, then you're not really going to know where to improve. So take a breather between every push, and that could also be said with making sure you're taking a breather as you hop onto your board on the switch lead foot, right? So don't try to just go like this and then catch. It doesn't count if you're like up here. You can look at my body. If you're up here and doing this and then catching yourself, that's not really helping you. You need to make sure that you get on and you're able to stay on the board centered over that switch foot. Now, something that can help you do that is essentially just making sure that your hips go back a bit and you're a bit closer to your board so that you're stable. If you're up here straightened out, everything's extended, your knees, your hips, your chest, everything's out, it's going to be much harder to stabilize yourself, especially if it's something new to you, right? If switch skating is a new thing, you want to make sure you're engaged the whole in the most possible way, right? From your ankle to your knee, hips, core, glutes, all of that, all down there, all of that. So just keep that in mind. You want to be engaged. You want to make sure you're centered over that lead foot, and give yourself a breather between every attempt, so that you understand where you're at with this stance. Now, once standing on it, pushing on it gets comfortable, you can start playing around with, making sure that you're opened up towards the direction you are going to be headed on a switch stance. Because as a regular skater, for myself, I might, or you might, if you're a regular skater, you might find yourself getting on your board like this, and you maybe want to look at my body, and it looks like my back is kind of facing where I'm going, right? And that kind of has us also leaning into that back foot, which is what we don't want to do. So I encourage you that once you get comfortable getting on, opening up this foot, making sure it's kind of pointed and opened up to where you're going, you're also opening up the rest of your body, and it's all facing the direction you are going when you're skating switch, right? And I'm skating regular, I'm gonna be open that way, opened up that way, so why not do the same when I'm opened up this way, right? We're essentially trying to mirror, and if I had to simplify, I would just say I'm mirroring, I don't know if I said that right, mirroring the stance, my regular stance, my switch stance. Now that's way easier said than done, but this comes with practice and making sure that you're intending to control every step of the way, right? And it doesn't mean it has to be controlled before you move on. It just means there's always things to work on if you feel unable to control your stance, your breath, your posture when you're switching up the stance. How are we on time?
7 minutes.
7 minutes? All right, cool. So basically,
You don't
benefits.
check it out.
What's up?
You don't want to check it out.
No, it's okay. So benefits of skating switch. For one, I already mentioned, you kind of open up to the direction you are going. So what that means is that when you open up to the direction you're going, you are also distributing the weight in a different way, where you allow other parts of your body to do a similar amount of work that you would do in just your regular stance, right? So if I'm always lifting the knee and extending the ankle with one, right? Just vertically, and then this one horizontally through a flick, chances are I'm gonna be isolating. Maybe isolating isn't the right word, but I'm gonna be using the muscles in very similar ways that can lead to overuse, right? And that's why you find regular skaters getting very similar amount of similar injuries, and then goofy skaters gets similar injuries in their case, right? So in order to distribute the load and reduce pressure on one side, switch skating is going to allow you to open up a whole other world of movements that you wouldn't otherwise be exposed to if you were just staying in your regular stance, or even in a switch stance but closed off, right? So for one, it distributes your load, reduces pressure, and reduces the risk of injury in those stance. So the benefit is, getting stronger in another posture, so to speak, and then also making sure that you are gaining access to a whole different set of tricks. And just to elaborate on that, it's not just about opening up the body, but it's about using both sides, or basically a 360 our 360 ability of vision, right? Because if I'm always stuck seeing from here to here, you can imagine that it's very limiting when I'm doing tricks going into switch, or even going rock to fakies. So I just want to make sure that as I progress in skating, have access to all these different capabilities, vision capabilities, because sometimes when we're doing tricks, it becomes so second nature that we're not really looking at where we're going, and to just be able to catch ourself and our gaze, and be able to adapt to the different, I guess, visual situations we're going to be exposed to. It's good to slowly incorporate this ability or progress this ability by introducing switch skating into our skating. And so it can start on flat. Right now I'm just at in the Metro Center. There's a lot of flat, but this can be done at the skate park. Doesn't matter what kind it is. There's always a good variety of ramps, and if there isn't, well, then you don't have to go all the way on the top to practice going switch. You can go mid ramp, get on your board, practice just getting on centered over this foot, just getting a bit more stable by squatting lower, and you should be set doing that. Having said that, that's gonna be the end of this video. If you have any questions about switch or anything you think I should elaborate on, feel free to mention it. Today I'm with an injured knee. I guess I could say knees. So I'm not really going to give any examples of skating, but I'm definitely open to it in future videos. So just comment down below what you would want to see, and we'll go from there. Having said that, laters, have a good one. Comment, subscribe, do all that stuff, and peace out.